Alrighty, let's make some stuff happen. So we're going to be building my own little solar charge controller for my supercharged hurricane lanterns. So first thing I need to do is right off the bat retire these. I won't be discarding these. I'll be finding another purpose for these. Just have not decided on what yet. So what I need is I need this little pigtail off of this thing. So we'll take this apart and desolder that pigtail so I can use it for the new project. So just two little wires here that will take off here. Help if I turn the soldering iron on. So I got my little pigtail. So we'll get that out of the way. So we got our little pigtail now. So now we're going to be using our little parts here. So we're going to be using our little pigtail here, and then we're going to be using our multi-voltage little solar charge light output little doohickey. We're going to be using our supercharger with our big honking capacitor here, and then of course our little battery, and then we'll bring in our little project box here with our weather glands and weather seal and associated hardware and stuff like that. So get the screws out of the way. So now the first thing we need to do is we got to drill some holes in here. So the battery just fits in here like that. No problem. It only fits in one way because that's how I designed it. So that's that. So we need to drill the holes for these glands. And I need an input and output. But I'm also going to be using a third gland for a little turbocharging in case it's needed. So I need to get my little Forstner bit out. So this uses a 16 mil Forstner bit to get a nice square hole. So we'll do that. Make a huge mess. So just to get a little uniformity here, we'll just mark the center of these things. And they don't have to be exactly perfect, but somewhere in the middle. I need 3 holes. So we'll be drilling 3 holes. hole. Two holes. There are 3 holes. Nice and square. Nice and uniform. Now to clean this mess up. Close enough. So we'll just put our glands in. So these guys have a couple of pieces. So the back side of this thing has a washer, and then on this side is a another little bulkhead hex fitting. And then we got our nut. So we'll stick our rubber washer on the outside of the box. We'll just hand snug them for a minute. So now the trick with these guys is you don't want to twist this outside section, because what will happen is the rubber washer will bunch up. So we're going to turn the inside nut, and they don't have to be crushing tight because you're dealing with plastic. Just snug, so we get a little bit of compression on the rubber. Okay, that takes care of that. Now we'll work on the a little electrics here, and I'll throw up a little diagram how I wired it. So what I'm going to be doing here is, of course, the battery section here will be connected to the battery, and then our load on our little charge board here will be going to our battery connector on our little solar charge controller here. And of course the LED light output, which will be the this pigtail here, will connect to this. We won't be using the switch, and then we'll be running parallel lines for the solar. So our board will sense the voltage of our solar panel, tell the LED to turn on or off, and then our dedicated power for our charge controller here. And then a little later we'll talk about how I'm going to be turbocharging the supercharged using the internals of the super connector valve here, and coniferin pins and all that other good stuff. So we'll get some wires going here, and then we'll put our little capacitor on and stuff like that. So we'll get some wire out. Just basic little, I think this is 18 gauge. More than enough power carrying capability. So we'll do that, and then we'll, when we're done here, we'll conformal coat this a little bit. I'll hold off on this one because I do have to add another little feature to it. So other than that, we can get going here and do some wiring, and then we'll just cut some wire here. And they don't need to be super long for our little bridge here. So this is already pre-tinned copper, so it'll be no worries of corrosion or anything like that happening with these things anytime soon. So we'll tin our wires so we can do a reflow. And then we'll connect our little solar. So we're going to be connecting our load to our battery. So we'll put a nice healthy glob of solder on the battery connections. And of course our through hole here, which is extremely huge. I think these were meant to actually have a connector on them. A through hole connector, but we won't be using that. And we'll do the same thing to the other side here. Make sure we don't have any flyaways. And then we can just go ahead and connect our ground to our black. Our load will be our red. Same thing on the motherboard here. We got B plus and B minus, so that's obvious. And of course on this one we'll have to twist the wires to match up to the other board. So we'll just do a reflow. Same thing on here. So we'll just flip everything over to make it easier. That takes care of our load to battery connections here. So now that that's done, and we can go ahead and connect our battery for the time being. So we'll just cut one of both these wires off, and not at the same time. Get that out of the way. Do the same thing, fill up the holes. So now we're live. So we want to kind of be careful of what we're doing. So now the next thing we got to do is we need to get some connections into the box. So the gauge of wire on these particular cables is just the very bare minimum of what the gland collapse onto. So what I'm going to be doing is beefing it up a little bit with a little bit of heat shrink. So I got some of this adhesive heat shrink here, so I'll be cutting like 1 inch or so. And I'm going to be needing another one for their solar connection. So we'll cut 2. And then we'll put our weather seal here, and we'll kind of just like guesstimate where it should be, and we'll say we'll put it right there. So we'll go ahead and shrink that down. So with this particular heat shrink, you got to be careful not to overheat it because it will split. So let that cool for a minute, and then we'll get our 6-volt solar panel out, which is already configured for charging 6-volt batteries, you know, just out of a whim. So what I need to do for this particular light is I need as much cable as I can, and I might even have to extend it. So I'm going to be removing the crock clips here, and I don't really know how they terminated it, but we'll find out in a minute how they terminated it. So it looks like they just heat shrinked it. They soldered it somehow on there. So that's fine. So I'll save the crock clips for now. And then we'll just repurpose them someday. So we'll make use of the wire here. And we'll get that ready for termination. So we'll put the heat shrink back where they had it. And then on this side, so when I put the box in, I'm going to be putting the box in like this. So I'm going to be having one of these coming in like this, and then one coming in the other way. So I need to have my exit wire going out. So we'll be putting this like this on this side. So when I flip it over, it's going to be on this side. Actually, I should put the heat shrink on the this part of the project instead of the other end, but that don't matter. So this is going to go like this, so I need to have this like this. So this wire is going to come in like this. So we're going to be cutting that. And this will be part of our extension wire. So we need to take the outer jacket off here. So that we expose these wires, and now go in the center like that. So we'll cut another piece of heat shrink. And we'll kind of guesstimate where this is going to go. So we'll put it something like that. Then we'll put our little gland nut on. And we'll stick the wire in. So I'll take care of that. This will be mounted like this. Does it fit like that? No, not really. That's why I don't have a gland on this side, because to make room for the output termination for that thing. So this will be mounted like that. So we'll have a top connection for a little turbocharger. And then we'll have an output connector going out this way, because this is the way the wires need to go out for my particular installation. So now we can take our little output wire and we can put it in this side after we put the nut on. And we'll have that sticking through like that. And then for this side, we'll have another cable coming out in the future. So now we'll connect our internals. But the wire's too short for that kind of stripping. Because this is very fine gauge wire. Okay. Go ahead and pin these. And we're good. So now we need to connect our internals. So we'll connect our little output here. For our LED fixture. And then we can connect that little part. So our output is connected. And now we're going to be connecting our input for our solar. So now the next thing we need to do is connect that. So we need another little piece of wire. So now we're going to go from this connection here to here. So we'll kind of like prorate this to where it should be, about right there. And we'll fill up our little holes here. So now we can go ahead and put our little pigtails on here. That. So now all we got to do is connect our solar panel to our also our solar input here. So we'll be doing a little touch up here. Trim them, and then we'll connect these also. And then for the final thing, we'll connect our little stabilizing capacitor on here. So it's marked on the board of what goes where. And this particular one, you need to fold the capacitor over. So we'll make our first bend at the capacitor, and then we can feed it in the holes. And then go ahead and solder that down. So now this should be ready to light something up. So for now, we'll kind of like tuck some stuff in here. So I can flip this around. So now we can connect our little solar lantern that I'll have to extend the wires on. But I'll have to custom make that on the flip side. So all I'm going to do is just like desolder that output connector and then get my length that I need. So now we'll see if this old girl works. So we'll just plug it in, and it shouldn't be lighting because it's in the light. So now if I flip this over and stick it in the darkness here, it should be light. Let's see what's going on here. 1 minus, 1 plus. Battery minus, battery plus. I got the load. Got the battery. Oh, should be lighting. Maybe it needs a jump. Okay, it's on. Should turn off. If I flip this back over, it should turn back on. And it does not. I wonder why. So I'll have to troubleshoot this to see what the problem was. So be back in the next segment. So I discovered what the problem was is actually my little charge controller. My super charge controller had a bad diode. So the system was working, but the system had to wait for the solar panel circuit to go completely dead before the light would come on. So I checked out the diode and it was open, so it wouldn't let any current through. So odd fault, but it is what it is. So I'll have to get a replacement board for this. So temporarily, I just put a diode that I had hanging around from something else that got blown up to put on here. So right now, as you can see, the light is on, and then if I pick the solar panel up where it starts getting light, you can see now it works as it should. So we got that working now. So the concept works. I know it works because I already built the first one. It's actually outside. So I do know this particular wackiness. It does work. So that takes care of that. So all I got to do is replace this board. Unfortunately, I don't have any micro diodes. So I got this conglomeration here. It's on stilts because the package is too big for the pads. So to prove to you guys that the concept works, that's that. So we'll take care of that. We'll button that up later. And if you're wondering what my little turbocharger is that, you know, just in case, you know, you snap off wires for whatever reason, because you're monkeying around, fooling around. But that's not a big deal. We'll just reconnect it. Make sure that works. Okay, that works. So now we can get some stuff out of the way. Down the way, get that out of the way. Put that over there. We'll get rid of this. So now, as I was talking about my turbocharger, since this is the charge controller for this thing, and you might need to give it a little help every once in a while in case, you know, the solar panel does not charge the battery, you know, for an extended amount of time. What I'm going to be adding is a female pigtail USB-C connector that will go through this third weather gland, and it'll just be dangling outside in the weather. I'll see if I can find a little rubber plug for it or something like that for the end of a USB-C cable, because that's my preferred. Or you can put a regular USB-A, you know, connector on there, your typical, this kind of a connector. You know, you can have one of them wired up and hanging outside, so you can give it a little boost charge if you desire. So now we need to move on to my next step for supercharging this. So we'll move this over here, and you can tell that it works perfectly because every little bit of light, it shuts off now. We're going to be working on the optics now for this particular thing here. But first we need to weatherproof my little connector through hole here. So you can use silicone or anything like that, but I got this awesome UV glue that I can use, so we'll just put a liberal amount around the top here to keep the rain out of it to a point, and we'll put some up here like that. I love using this stuff because it's kind of like using Ka glue with the accelerator, which is the little pumper there, where as soon as it contacts that Ka glue, it's hard as a rock and instantly. But I like using this stuff because even if you don't fully cure it right away, once it goes outside and it hits the UV of the outside sun, it'll turn it into a rock hard. And since it's clear, you don't really notice it. It just looks like a clear blob. So now, the optics. of turbocharging this. So as it stands right now, there is some light, you know, going out toward the sides, but the majority of it is going down. So it's hitting this black burner part, and it's, you know, kind of reflecting, but since it's black, it's getting absorbed a little bit, so there's not a light getting reflected back out and stuff like that. Gives you a nice effect that it's lit and stuff like that. But I want to mimic what's inside a like a path light or any kind of light that is directing the light outward and downward. So I want to recreate that little reflective cone. So that's what I was working on. And the first one I built, I made a little mirror reflective cone at a 45-degree angle. So it's about 2.5 inches around, and it's about an inch or so tall. Actually, I got the layouts here for that. So I went to a website that you can make all these patterns. So the first reflective cone mirror reflector that I made was 2.5 inches in diameter, and it is a 1.25 inches tall. So it gives you a 45-degree angle triangle from the bottom to your sides. So that's a 45-degree angle, and it throws the light out decently, but I think it can be improved upon. So I did a little research on Google, and I kind of, there is a calculator on there, but it's way too advanced in mathematics for me to try to figure it out. So I sort of looked at the pictures and stuff like that of different shapes of cones. So I came up with maybe a steeper cone, and from what I seen on a picture, the steeper the cone, the more light will be reflected outwards and not so much back up from the source. So I have no idea what I'm talking about with this crap. So let's just say, from what I understand, the steeper the cone, the more light will go outward, because you got a light source coming down. It's going to hit the mirror of the cone at a weird angle. So whatever that angle is, it'll reflect it outward. So I tried a 45. It seems to work decent, but I want to try this almost 70 degrees. So that's like almost halfway between 45 and 90. So that's what we got here. So I got a pattern here that I'm going to cut out, and then we'll cut it out on a piece of mirror, and then we'll throw it in here. And since this is kind of elongated, it'll look kind of decent in there. The 45 looks pretty good. So we're going to run with it. Get some of this, the priest out of here, and we'll cut this pattern out. So this pattern is 2.5 inches wide, because that's the inside diameter of the glass chimney here, glass envelope. And then we got 2 15/16 tall, so that's this tall. And then, which gives us degrees of 66.9. So you might as well say 70 degrees. And then we got our little overlapping. This is an optional when you go to the calculator to make this thing. This is where you're going to join it. So we're going to cut this out. So I did the same thing with the 45. And you can see right here how tall this particular cone, reflective cone, will be. So there's our little pattern. And now we'll get our reflective mirror sheet out here. That I've already cut one out, so you'll see a missing segment in the next sheet. And if this works good, I'll probably put a 70-degree cone on the other one, because you can see the differences in pattern. This is the 45 and this is the 66. So you can see that it's a huge drastic shape and size and height and all that other good stuff. So we'll get our already sodomized sheet out. So we'll get you out of the way, and then we'll pick the next sheet here. So we'll just keep going in line here, and we'll just give ourselves enough room, and we'll just cut this out. So we can make our pattern. And then we'll take a pen and copy that. Okay, there's our pattern. I'll just cut this out. Okay, so now our overlap here, which you're gonna kind of, we're gonna cut this part out. We're gonna cut the adhesive backing off, the protective film to keep the sticky on there. So we'll just take this and we'll just fold it over for so we can get a cut line. But this ain't going to be enough to support the wanting to spring back out, so we'll put a piece of tape on the back side of this. Like such. And then we can take our protective layer off. So you can see all nice and mirrory. And then we'll just we'll fold it and join the edges. So we'll have to massage this so it doesn't kink. Which is why we'll be using the added tape So there's our basic cone, our little reflector cone. So we're going to have to put some reinforcement on the other side of this to help it keep it closed. So now that that's done, I'll do a little trimming here and cut that little bump off. Probably another little thing I can probably do is give it a little help with some of this clear glue. So now all we got to do is put it in the lamp. So we'll take our lamp out here. And of course, we'll have to take the envelope out and tip them. Like that. Then we can take our little cone, stick him in there. Put our glow back on. So now we can check out the lighting here, so we can turn some more lights off, and now there's a lot more light coming out toward me and toward the bottom here. So that is a pretty cool little project here. So we can take turn some more lights off here. So that looks pretty good. Of course, these flipping lights will come back on. But you can see how much more light is coming out toward me. And we can just compare by taking that back out. So you can see how it's a lot more, it's actually coming a lot more down toward the ground. So it's lighting the bottom, because that's where the source of the light is coming from. So you can see there's not really a lot of light coming out toward me. But as soon as I put that little cone back in there, you can tell it's a lot more brighter out here. And especially when it's coming way out in the dark, it's a lot better. And actually I can almost dazzle the camera. If I can find a little line, there it is. Yeah, you can tell it looks a lot brighter when I got it on the ground. Because right now this is right in line with the camera. But if I pick it up, it looks like it gets brighter. So pretty cool. A little hacker here. And of course, with this charge controller, the way it's designed is that it actually, when any kind of light, above the battery voltage, it's going to try to draw a maximum amount of amperage, even on a cloudy day and stuff like that, to recharge the battery. And this thing should burn all night, when it's fully charged. Of course, there's going to be days where it's not going to be fully charged all the time, and you get less output, so you may not see the light on, or it might be on very dim by the time you wake up the next morning and stuff like that. But when it's dark, the light will come on, and then once it starts receiving light, it automatically goes off. That's how sensitive it is to light. Even what little light is in here, it's actually lighting up pretty good. So we'll wait for them little lights to come on, and the light will automatically come on. Even the room light is making it come on. And you can tell the way these particular light controller works for these things. As the light dims, the light will come on very slowly and dimly. See, like right now, it's barely lit, and it's flashing because of the light coming through the ceiling fan. And then as it gets darker and darker, it's so sensitive, it's actually picking up on the trippy drippies in the back wall, so it's making it flicker. So as the sun goes down, the lights come up instead of that just on-off motion, which is what a lot of solar lights do. They're either on or off. Or this particular one, as the light fades, the lights come up. Pretty cool. Let's see what the light looks like on the overhead if I take the reflector out. So you can tell it's got a couple of little rings on it. Of course, the cameras don't do any justice for this stuff. So you gotta have you gotta see it in person, really. So you can tell I can tell by looking at the image on the viewfinder that them little reflective rings are gone. It's just a more consistent output. So that's pretty cool. The concept works for these little buggers. Had to do a little troubleshooting for the missing in action, blowing up diode fresh out of the factory. So always get spares just in case one doesn't work. So that's it for this video. Of course, all I got to do now is wait for the little charge cords to come in the coming days, and then button this up. So with the weather strip here, all you got to do is just start it in the middle here, And try not to stretch it as you're sticking it in the channel, because that'll change the diameter of the weather seal here. So try to just place it without stretching it, especially in the corners, because this particular one does have a couple of corners you got to go around, and you always get a little extra, so you'll have to trim it to fit. That's why you start in the middle. And then as you get to the back to where you began, you got to kind of just sort of give it like a 1/2 mil extra. And slice it. And then what you can do is just massage that in there, so that makes a nice tight seal. And then of course, this particular one, you got to line up the matching stuff, screw it down, and you're all set. Should be pretty much weatherproof. And then I'll just glue it to the back of this solar panel here, like that. So I hope you learn how to make your own turbocharged solar hurricane lanterns. So thanks for watching, and you can follow me on Rumble. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.